Hey everyone, and welcome back to another episode of what makes this game awesome. So last video I said I would make a review of my favourite game of the year, and it didn't come out this year, it came out late 2017, but I played it this year, so I'm still going to count it as my favourite game this year. But anyway, today I want to share another amazing game with you for those of you who haven't heard about it. So today I'm going to be talking about Hat in Time and what makes this game awesome. So, A Hat in Time is, as far as I can tell, an indie game made by Gears for Breakfast. This is their first game, which makes it even more amazing. It genuinely feels like a AAA, really polished title. So for it to be this studio's first game, that's amazing. Feeling inspired by some of my favourite platformers, including Mario Galaxy, A Hat in Time feels like a dream to play. It has smooth, flowing controls that feel premium and the kind of controls you'd expect from a AAA 3D Mario platformer. The game is obviously a 3D platformer in a very similar vein to Mario 64 or Odyssey or Galaxy or any of them, where you have to collect these time hourglasses to power your ship. At the beginning of the game, these hourglasses fall out of your ship when one of these buff dudes, all collectively named the Mafia, bumps into your ship and causes the hourglasses and you to be spread around the nearby galaxies. You crash land on a planet called Mafia Town, and from here, your hunt to recover all of the hourglasses begins. The game overall is split across 5 chapters, each one having multiple, incredibly varied missions throughout. In Chapter 1, the missions revolve around restoring peace to Mafia Town, but in Chapter 2, it's about helping some birds direct their films, and this should kind of give you an idea of how varied the game is. There is a lot of stuff in this game. There's also an overarching storyline through the whole game, tying together the little fun individual storylines of each chapter. Essentially, it boils down to this moustache girl that you meet in Mafia Town initially befriending you when you crash land, but after she realizes that breaking an hourglass can reverse time, she turns against you to try and fix all of the evil in the world by using the hourglasses. Obviously, you still need them to fuel your ship, so this begins a game-long rivalry. Each chapter has a massive map to explore, with changes between maps, small or big, happening between the acts of the chapter. In a few cases, the entire map you're playing in completely changes to another location mid-chapter. So in terms of environment variation, this game goes way beyond what it needed to, in a good way. For example, Mafia Town gives you this massive complex map with tons of different areas in the map, secrets hidden within, and towering structures to jump and dive your way up. Each map has its own unique way of getting you to explore the limit of your skills, getting you to do these really challenging jumps and making sure you're not getting lazy with it. Alongside the storyline chapters, there are always optional or hidden objectives throughout the level. These can be in the form of safes that you need to find the code for, time rifts that you have to identify based on a picture, or completely unique events. Now, I just mentioned time rifts. These are fractures in time caused by fractured hourglasses that require you to complete a trial, kinda like the ones in Mario Sunshine, to collect extra hourglasses. They're completely optional, but I find them quite challenging and really fun to do as you go on. And as is a common theme in this game, the optional content adds so much more onto the stuff that you have to play. I think it almost should be mandatory. As you progress through the game collecting more hourglasses, you also begin to collect yarn, which can be sewn into hats to give your character alternate powers. For example, after you collect the sprint yarn, which gives you the recipe for the sprint hat, you collect enough yarn to craft it, which allows your character to run faster, but at the cost of your character's normal double jump. Over the course of the game, you can collect 5, or technically 6 hats, with the 6th, final hat being a secret that requires you to explore outside of the main storyline. Each hat requires more yarn to craft than the last, so collecting more and more yarn as you go through the game makes it a lot easier in the long run. As far as I can tell, the entire main storyline doesn't require you to craft a single hat, but there are parts that are infinitely easier with them, and also hidden challenges that definitely require them. I love this idea of allowing players to choose their own way through the storyline, and I think the way they did it in this game is masterful, as it pretty much feels seamless. In fact, my favourite part of this game is the freedom it gives you. In literally every single level, there are multiple routes to get through an area. Some intended, some probably not, but the freedom to try these harder, less obvious routes and sometimes actually succeed is an amazing feeling, and makes me always love playing this game, even if I'm just free roaming. On top of all the additional powers granted by your hats, you can also buy badges from this legit, reliable and trustworthy fellow. Some badges help you, like allowing you to not bonk off walls when you dive, or to collect items from further away. But some make the game harder if you choose to attempt to play with them, like a one life mode, or a mode where you can't hear what any characters are saying. The catch is that you can only equip a couple at a time, so you have to even further customize your desired playstyle. no two runs are going to be quite the same in this game. There are a couple of mandatory badges that you do have to buy to progress, but through the whole run, I only had one that I had to go out of my way to buy. Some badges are definitely a ton better than others, and some can cost ridiculous amounts for what they do, but still, the added customization makes me really like this game, and I very quickly found out how I wanted to play through it. The graphics in this game have my personal favourite type of graphical style, cel-shaded. It looks like it's the kind of game that will age super well because it never really tried to be that realistic. I just love it. The textures are all nice and high quality, and I feel like it's genuinely such a good looking game. Even better than the graphics though is the soundtrack. It's so good. There's a multitude of tracks in it, and the main one, the kind of main theme of the game, has this really catchy melody to it that I was getting stuck in my head constantly as I was playing the game. As I always try to do, it's the background music for this video. So if you guys want to support the original release, which I highly recommend you do, check out the links in the description below, and there'll be all the stuff to do with the game's soundtrack down there. This is one of those games where the soundtrack is so good, some people might even want to get the game just for that. Genuinely though, it's such an amazing soundtrack with an amazing variety of moods, and I really recommend that you go and have a listen to it. Also, just saying, on my PC, this game seems to run at a constant 60 FPS, which is great, especially for a game that seems to be relatively graphically demanding. So this is very impressive, and the one unfortunate thing is that, like most 3D platformers, every now and again the camera does seem to fuck up a little. To be fair, it doesn't do it very much in this game, but there are the occasional moments where you're trying to wall jump and the camera goes through the wall. In general, they handle it quite well, but I figure it's just worth mentioning. That said, I haven't had a single cheap death to do with the camera at all in the entire game, so it shouldn't really be that bad for most of you. However, that can't be said for some of the enemies in this game. These have annoyingly caused a few cheap deaths. Now don't get me wrong, it isn't enough to make me hate the game or even affect my rating that much. I just feel like the combat is quite underdeveloped. You can hit a combo of 3, homing attack on enemies, and later in the game if you get a badge you can shoot a beam. These all get the job done, but sometimes I feel like enemy placement can fuck with you a bit, especially these invisible cats that can steal your hats and your money. I hate these things so much. I had a few deaths where I couldn't even see why I was dying until I was back at the last checkpoint, and I feel the invisible shimmer of these invisible cats should be a lot more obvious. That said, they're not that common, and I can forgive it because of the god tier platforming. It's just annoying when you get your hat stolen and you have to look around for this invisible thing just to be able to use them again. But overall, this game does my favourite platforming thing, where there is a standard route through a level, but then there are extra collectibles and objectives that require more challenging platforming and initiative to get, including the time rifts. The actual storyline isn't particularly hard, one of my only gripes with it, but these add some serious challenge. While it does get more difficult towards the end of the game, I found that these challenges got really difficult quite quickly, and I play a lot of platformers, so unless you really get used to the movement engine, these can get super hard. Also, another thing this game does well, yes, I know this is becoming quite a long list, it even has Steam Workshop support. That's right, since the last PC update there is a mapping contest to design a time rift or a completely new full chapter, or more, where you can win $1,000. I like that they're rewarding the community for taking part, and the freedom that people have been allowed to mod is ridiculous. If some of you haven't drawn parallels between this and Super Mario Odyssey, then someone modded in Cappy to help you, complete with being able to jump off him and everything. Even after completely finishing all of the content in this game, I'm still going back to it to play community mods. So this game is just jammed with content, and I love it. If this wasn't enough, they've even announced a New Game Plus mode and a co-op mode that'll be released this year, which I cannot wait for, as even the single player is so addictive for me. I just love Gears for Breakfast development mindset, where so much extra content is included free with updates in their game. So for once, there's actually another spoiler warning in this video. I'm going to be talking about the final boss and the secret hat in the game, so if you guys want to play the game for yourself, you may want to skip ahead. Even if this game has been spoiled for you though, it's still amazing, so it's up to you if you want to keep watching. Alright, that was your last chance. Let's go. So after doing so much of the game, you eventually get to the final castle. The Mustache Girl has summoned everyone in the galaxy there so she can judge if they should live or not with her godlike powers that she got from the hourglasses. Before you can fight her, there's a really tough gauntlet to get through, and it legitimately took me so long. It isn't the hardest in the entire game, but for the mandatory storyline, it's probably the hardest thing about it. It lasts a while, but eventually you get to the Mustache Girl. She has a god complex and is judging everyone freely. She judges you as good, and you're given the choice to either leave or stay and fight. Now, it turns out you actually can get a bad ending by leaving, but I don't have any footage of this as I chose to stay and fight. Doing this activates the final boss battle, which has a ton of stages. It all circulates around the friends that you've made helping you win the fight, saying they already have a hero, they don't need the mustache girl to be one. I quite like everything about this fight apart from the actual fight. I thought it was pretty easy considering the level of platforming you should be at that point anyway, and if I had the secret hat, it would have literally required no effort at all, which should never be the case for a final boss. Either way, it's still fun to go through and isn't a complete walk in the park. After beating the mustache girl, you take back your rightful hourglass bundle that she left behind and get given the option to set things right using one hourglass, even though you might not have enough fuel. I chose to do this, and from here the ending plays out. But the game still isn't over, or at least not necessarily. There is still a stage that requires a hat, and this is the secret hat, the time stop hat. This requires you to play the free roam stage and collect 32 yarn, which is a ridiculous amount, and collecting it all allows you to freeze time in the game for a few seconds. It's quite rewarding, but unsurprisingly it makes you horribly overpowered, so it's better to get, in my opinion, after the game's over, as the final boss would be a breeze with this hat. So A Hat in Time has somehow managed to earn top of my Game of the Year so far award. Admittedly, I haven't played that many, but just everything is done so well. It feels like so much time and effort has been put into the movement, graphics, soundtrack, and everything in this game, and it comes together to make this really cool experience. It reminds me a bit of Mario Galaxy, as I've said, and I just genuinely think this place deserves to be more recognized than it is in a 3D platforming community. Of course, I'm not saying that this won't change, as I'm planning on playing even more games this year, but this is definitely a great one and deserves to be on my mag list and to be more recognized than it is. If any of you guys haven't heard about this, I definitely recommend that you go and check it out in your free time, and if you get it in the right place, it's not even that much money. So with everything taken into consideration, I would currently rate A Hat in Time an 8.5 out of 10. This could even go up more if the co-op modes and the extra shit that they keep adding onto the game is better, and honestly, if it weren't for just a couple of glitches here and there, and at some points the storyline dragging just a tiny bit, I would happily rate this game a 10 out of 10. They do so much well, and I really think this game deserves more than it's gotten. The graphical style and the soundtrack give this game an amazing atmosphere, and I think considering you can get this game for under £10 at G2A and around 20 on Steam or Humble Bundle, that is amazing. It's definitely worth checking out, and it creates this amazing atmosphere that you just have to experience to understand. But I can wholeheartedly recommend that you go out and buy this game. It's a polished and fun experience, and while glitches may pop up every now and again, they really never were a game breaker for me. So yeah, even if it may seem on the pricey side, check it out. Anyway guys, thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to leave a like and subscribe to see more stuff from the channel. Also, let me know what you think of this game in the comments. I know I've actually rated it lower than the game I talked about before, Keep Talking and Nobody Explodes, which I also played this year, but personally I prefer the kind of style of this game. I just think objectively that is much better as a party game, so I rated it higher. But this is definitely my personal favourite game of the year. So obviously let me know what you think about it below. I really want to know what you guys have to say about this game. And make sure to check out my social stuffs, link on screen now and in the description, to stay updated with the show. I tend to use Twitter a lot, so if you guys want to get in touch with me, either the YouTube comments or my Twitter is probably the place to do it. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video, so see you there.